Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving into one of the most powerful stories you'll ever hear. I mean, it's a journey of betrayal and incredible patience, one that literally goes from the bottom of a well all the way to the steps of a throne. You know, the source of this story makes a pretty bold claim. It calls it the best of stories. So, what makes it the best? Why that title? Well, that's what we're here to figure out. Let's follow this path together, from the depths of a well to the heights of a throne, and see for ourselves. Okay, so where does it all start? Well, it doesn't begin with some big action. It starts with a vision, a dream, really. And this dream, it's like a divine promise that sets the entire stage for a life filled with challenges, but also, ultimately, with victory. So a young Joseph, he has this incredible dream. And who does he share it with? His father, Jacob. Now, Jacob, being a prophet himself, he gets it instantly. He understands the profound meaning, but also the danger in it. He sees it's a prophecy, one that points to Joseph's future authority over the whole family. And that is a heavy thing for a young boy to carry. And his father's warning? This is the first really crucial piece of wisdom we get from the story. He tells him, look, some blessings, you have to protect them. It means not every dream is meant to be shouted from the rooftops, especially not before it's ready. And man, is that a chilling foreshadowing of the jealousy that's about to just explode? So how does this apply to you and me? It's pretty direct, right? Think about it. Do you have a big dream, a new project you're passionate about? The lesson here is to protect it, guard it, because not everyone out there is going to celebrate with you. Some people, they just feel envy. So maybe, just maybe, some of those big visions are best kept under wraps until they're real. And that potential, that amazing dream, well, that's exactly what sparks the first major trial. It lights a fire of envy that leads to a betrayal so shocking because it comes from the very people who should have been his biggest protectors. And just look at how this betrayal unfolds. It's got this cold, calculated logic to it. This wasn't just a sudden burst of anger. No, it was a process, a chilling one. It started with envy, right? That envy then hardened into a full-blown conspiracy, and it ends with them doing the unthinkable, throwing their own brother into a well in the middle of the desert and leaving him for dead. But right there, in that moment of just absolute, total despair, think about it, a kid, alone, in the dark, betrayed. You'd think that's the end, but it's not. God doesn't abandon him. Instead, a message comes through, a reassurance that plants this tiny seed of future victory. It's a promise, really, a promise that one day he will be the one to tell them what they did, and they won't even know who he is. Wow. So he gets pulled from the well only to be sold as a slave. And for what? A cheap price, basically nothing. And this right here, this is a huge theme in the story. It shows you that what the world thinks you're worth, it's often just an illusion. Society might put a tiny price tag on him, but his real value, that light he has inside, that's something you just can't measure. Okay, so from Joseph ends up in a palace in Egypt. You'd think his luck is turning, right? But his trials, they are far from over. Now he's facing a totally different kind of test. It's not about physical survival anymore. It's about moral integrity. So he's in this powerful person's house, and the master's wife, she's influential, she's powerful, and she aggressively tries to seduce him. And his response? It's immediate. It's instinct. He doesn't pause. He doesn't weigh the pros and cons. He just turns straight to his faith and says, I seek refuge in God. And get this. Here's the brutal irony of it all. He does the right thing. The absolutely right thing. He maintains his integrity when it would have been so easy not to. And his reward for that? Prison. He gets falsely accused and locked up. It's such a harsh lesson, isn't it? That sometimes this world will punish you for doing good. But here's the thing about Joseph. He doesn't let those prison walls crush his spirit. He could have become so bitter,
And who would blame him? But instead, he does something amazing. He transforms this prison into his own school of wisdom. He starts helping people, becomes a guide, interprets dreams for other prisoners, shares his faith. He basically turns a place of punishment into a platform for his purpose.
And the lesson for us here is just so powerful. Your circumstances, they do not have to define your contribution. It doesn't matter if you're in a job you hate, a tough situation, or, well, a literal prison. You always, always have the choice to be a light in that space, to illuminate the place you're in. So let's just take a quick step back and look at this journey so far. You start to see a clear pattern, don't you? At every single stop, the secret dream, the well, being sold, the temptation, the prison, every time he's humiliated on the outside, he grows stronger on the inside. Each trial is actually a lesson, forging the exact wisdom he's going to need down the road. Right, so all these years, all this suffering, in that palace, in the prison, you might think it's just a tragic delay. But it's not. It was all a setup, a divine preparation for what was coming next. Power. And then the moment arrives. The king summons him to interpret a dream about a massive famine on the way. Joseph nails it. He proves his wisdom. But listen to what he does next. He doesn't just beg for his freedom. No way. He confidently asks for responsibility. He says, "Appoint me over the storehouses of the land." He knows that every single trial has prepared him for this exact job. So his rise to power, it wasn't sudden. It wasn't luck. It was the direct result of every single thing he went through. The well, the slavery, the prison, each one was a stepping stone. And that's what empowerment means in this story. It's not something you're just handed. It's something you earn through incredible patience. And this brings us to the absolute peak of the story, the culmination of this entire unbelievable journey. Joseph is now in charge. He holds all the power, managing the food supply for an entire nation. And who walks through the door? The very people who threw him in that well all those years ago. I mean, think about it. Decades has passed. A huge famine hits the land, and it forces his brothers to come to Egypt begging for food. They stand there before him, humbled, desperate, weak, and they have no clue, no idea that this powerful man they're pleading with is the brother they left to die. When they finally ask, Are you really Joseph? Wow, the moment is just stunning. So here it is, the ultimate test. He has absolute power. His abusers are completely at his mercy. What's he going to choose? Revenge? Payback? No. He chooses something so much harder, so much more powerful. He chooses total, unconditional forgiveness. No blame on you today. So if you had to break it down, what's the formula here? What made this all possible? Well, it started with that divine dream, for sure. And it was held together by his unwavering purity and integrity. But the biggest piece of the pie, the engine that drove this whole thing, it was patience. Decades of it, immense patience through all that suffering. You take away any one of those three things, and that dream dies right there in the well. And just like that, the story comes full circle. That vision he had as a little boy, remember? The 11 stars, the sun and the moon, all bowing to him, it comes true. Literally, he brings his entire family, his parents, his brothers, to Egypt and raises them up to the throne, to a position of honor. The child's dream becomes the prophet's reality. And that's where this ancient story suddenly becomes a mirror for our own lives. Because really, we all face our own versions of these things, don't we? Our own well of despair, our own palace of temptation, and maybe, just maybe, our own throne of influence. So the final, most important question isn't about Joseph anymore. It's about you. When you face your moments, what will you choose?